Hello, my name is Raya Vigil, and I am the Director of Diversity Education and Training for the Office of the Vice President for Diversity. And today I have the opportunity to talk to you today about diversity and inclusion, and more specifically about why it's important to the work that you do as graduate teaching assistants. What we say in the classroom matters, and you have the ability to create inclusive spaces that all of your students would feel welcomed and valued and supported. And we know that research shows us that the more supported that students feel in the classroom, the better they will ultimately do. And so you have that opportunity as graduate students moving forward. If I were to ask you how many of you would like to succeed in your job, I would imagine, though I can't see you sitting in front of your computer, that everybody would say, yes, of course, I want to succeed at being a graduate teaching assistant. That's why I'm going to graduate school. And I would say that's, first of all, that's great to hear. And I would tell you that you truly can't succeed at teaching if you're not inclusive and mindful of the students and their needs that are in the classroom. When so many people think about diversity and inclusion, they think about images like this, like we are the world, or embrace diversity, or hand holding, which is, to be fair, a component of diversity, of how do we become more multiculturally aware and we support one another. But we need to reframe diversity and inclusion as a necessary component to student success. And this is where you come in, graduate teaching assistants. You have the opportunity and the responsibility to create inclusive, supportive classrooms for those that you are instructing. We define inclusion at CSU that we need to go beyond invitation. We want all members of our community to feel welcomed, to feel valued, and to feel affirmed. And I like to think about it like this because I often hear people say, well, we need to invite people to the table. And I'd say, sure, that's a first step, but that's invitation. How are we treating them once they are actually at the table? Do they feel welcomed, like we actually want them to be here? Do they feel valued for the contributions that they are making? And are we affirming them and all the complexity of their identity that they're bringing in? The students in your classrooms, they aren't just students. They're veterans, they're first generation students, they're parents, they're students with disabilities. And all of those different components of identity impact how they are able to show up and be supported and to be successful in your classrooms. And so we need to recognize not only the invitation that we are providing to students, but also how we are treating them once they have come to CSU. We have a very broad definition of diversity here at CSU. In fact, we have 17 different identity markers, everything from race and ethnicity to different ideas and perspectives. And we do this because it's absolutely important that people see themselves within this definition. We're not just talking about those people, right? We're talking about us, and we have something to contribute to the conversation. Our definition further goes on to state that we need to pay special attention to historically marginalized and excluded populations, which would be your more traditional sense of diversity, which is race, class, gender, sexual orientation, ability, etc. Because not everybody on this list has had the same historical access to resources. I do want to point out one word here, and it's the use of intersectionality. And it's this idea that we exist at the intersections of these identities, that we aren't just one identity, but we are multidimensional, multifaceted people, and we experience the world, and the world experiences us at that intersection of identity. Similarly, as I mentioned earlier, students don't have this monodimensional identity. They're multidimensional, and they bring all of that into their interactions in the classroom. So research states that at a primarily white institution, which CSU is, it is critical that underrepresented students receive academic support from numerous areas in order to graduate. Students who perceive their campus climate as inclusive and non-discriminatory show greater willingness to accept intellectual challenges. Students who interact with diverse peers, both in and out of the classroom, show greater active thinking, intellectual engagement, and motivation. And upon graduation, students who experienced opportunities to confront multicultural issues in the classroom and in extracurricular settings report heightened satisfaction with their overall college experience. So knowing that classroom inclusion is important to student success and understanding now that you would like to be successful in your role as graduate teaching assistants, I want to cover a very quick concept about inclusive classrooms. It's a very simple concept, but it often gets us hung up when we are working across difference and trying to engage with somebody who has a different race or ethnicity or ability or gender status as ourselves. The idea that our intent and our impact don't always match up. So I would imagine that this person, when they were backing out of their driveway that morning, did not intend to end up on a roof. Their intention was to back up. The impact is not only dealing with the situation at hand, but probably their insurance bills going up and having to explain to their neighbors what exactly that they were doing. So again, these are simple concepts that will get us a long way as we are trying to engage with students who have a different racial or ethnic or some type of diverse identity than our own selves. And I want to cover a couple quick tips about an intent and impact. Well-intended people cause harm, right? Just because you are well-intended does not mean you are out there causing harm. It gives you the opportunity to be more aware of yourself, to say, I recognize that I had one intention and the harm I'm causing is something different, and that is something that you need in inclusive classrooms, but you can have the best of intentions and still cause harm. So many of us are not aware that we've done anything harmful. We can try to connect with a student of color in our classroom and end up making them feel marginalized or isolated or harmed in a way that we did not intend. And if they don't feel comfortable to come up to us and let us know that that's the experience that they're having, we could be causing unintentional harm, and we may not have any idea that something has transpired. And just because you don't intend to hurt someone doesn't mean it still doesn't hurt. So just because I didn't intend to step on your foot, in fact, I didn't even see it there, doesn't mean that it doesn't hurt, or that you have a broken toe and we have to go do something about it. I can apologize all day long saying that's not what I meant. You still have a broken toe and I still have to do something with it. So at this point, what I would like for you to do is pause. There is an intent and impact worksheet that we have created to accompany this module. You will have a common phrase on one side that people say trying to connect across difference. In one column, it says possible intent, and the other column says probable impact on marginalized group. And I would like for you to take the next 10 to 15 minutes and complete this with the context of this often happens in a classroom setting. So now that you are back, what we would like to do is provide the opportunity for you to hear from students that actually attend CSU to share their experiences of inclusion and exclusion to learn best practices moving forward. We are very fortunate to have students who have agreed to do this. I do want to say, though they are speaking from their own experience, they can in no way speak for an entire population of students. It's very important because oftentimes we hear students say they get put on the spot in front of group settings or in classes when they are asked to speak for an entire population that they are perceived to be a part of. And so they are not going to speak for an entire population. They're going to share their own experiences of inclusion and exclusion. So today I would like to leave you with a few inclusion quick tips that hopefully you've picked up along the way, both from an overarching understanding of how we define diversity and inclusion at CSU, from interacting with the worksheet in the panel. There's also an assumption guide that we've asked you to review to address probable assumptions that we're making based upon the students that are in our classroom. And then finally, from hearing students themselves about their own lived experiences here at CSU. So be aware of your own intent and impact. You might have one intention and it could be the best of intention, and the impact could be completely different. So recognize, I may have had one intention, I apologize. What was the impact on you, and how can we learn? If people are willing to give us feedback, how can we learn from the feedback and be better in the future? So be cautious of assumptions. Again, that assumptions worksheet will help you review upon what are the assumptions that you're potentially bringing into your student interactions, whether it's in regard to ability or socioeconomic status or general needs that students would have. So use inclusive language, and this is an opportunity for you to model, not that I can't say these things. I think there's this anti-political correctness mentality. Political correctness is all about the things you can't say, But inclusive language is learning language and showing language that shows that you respect the students that you're in your class. So learn how to pronounce students' names, learn gendered pronouns, create opportunities and systems and structures in your classroom for people to give you feedback, whether it's, hey, you misgendered me, or that's not how I pronounce my name, or when you said this, I wasn't feeling included or valued. The more you can do that on the front end, the more opportunity you have to gather feedback and then apply it to best practice moving forward. And then finally, recognize that no one person can speak for an entire population. Those students are bringing in their own individual experiences. They cannot speak for all members of an entire community. So please be mindful and not ask students to do that moving forward. So I want to thank you for your time. Hopefully you've been able to learn a couple quick tips. Know that the Office of the Vice President for Diversity exists on campus to provide ongoing support and coaching for faculty, staff, and graduate teaching assistants. Please contact us if you have any questions or any comments about the session that we have conducted today. Thank you for your time. I hope you continue to learn more through the modules that you have the rest of the time. Thank you.